Soraya, we're back.
Yes, we're back. Hey, everybody. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing very well. So there's a number of topics that we're going to discuss today, but can you tell our audience who we'll be talking to about several topics to about?
Yes. Uh, we will be talking to the one and only Steve Wynn of the
Artist
Dream
work.
Syndicate Baseball Project and many, many, many other projects, solo and group. But yeah, there's a lot that's going on with the Dream Syndicate with Steve Wynn and a number of his projects. So we wanted to make sure to catch him in between gigs.
Which is what we're literally doing in between gigs.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, why don't we just get started?
Perfect.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff,
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, a grooviar.
Let's get groovy.
Indeed.
So we meet again. Here we are.
Yes.
Indeed.
All
Soraya,
right, Jeff, go ahead. You were saying you were in the middle of.
I was just gonna say, so we were just literally saying, Steve, that we're catching you literally in between gigs. You're that busy these days, so we're squeezing this in while we can. While we got you a
Oh, happy to be here. I always like talking to you guys, whether it's in a Glasgow or Liverpool club or at a backyard in Eagle Rock or here on the newfangled state-of-the-art chatting apparatus.
We
Look at your shirt, Jeff. I like your shirt.
I bought this in Liverpool when I went to see you.
You did. That's great. Love it.
Actually, my wife
And
bought it.
then I bought this in Glasgow when I
Oh.
went to see you. So we have a connection.
The travel wardrobe.
Absolutely. So I think you've given us a great place to start. And that is, you were just being interviewed about the documentary, How Did We Find Ourselves Here? Plus, I'm sure a number of other things. And for our listeners, Jeff and I were part of this screening in Los Angeles for the documentary. That was a fundraiser also for the Wild Honey Foundation. And Emil Spolder was there as well, the documentarian, and Dennis Duck, as well as you and your lovely mom, which
Yes.
she was a huge hit.
Yeah, she always is.
And there's going to be a screening tomorrow, May the 16th, in New York at the Bowery Ballroom with some live music as well. So I think I want to start with the documentary, Stephen. Talk
Sure.
to us a little bit about, this has been a years-long project for Emil and all these interviews and this story. Are you satisfied with this documentary now that
yeah.
it's about to go out into the world via streaming in June?
Yeah, very much so. I think he did a great job. It's funny when if you would say to me, "Oh, what do you think of the new Dream Syndicate album or this album that I made?" If I say, "Yeah, it's fantastic," it sounds a little immodest, but I can say that about the documentary because it's we're just interview subjects and film subjects, but Emil did all the aesthetic work on it. He had the vision, what he wanted to tell with the story, who he wanted to talk to, how he wanted to look, and he did a fantastic job. And I know he put a lot of effort into it too. I mean, I was today I was doing the interview on the radio. The interviewer Joe asked if we had seen it along the way, and I said no, but then I realized he had shown me little bits and pieces, and I know he was taking a lot of time. Emil was taking a lot of time to get the coloring right and the filters right and the look of it right and all the really details, the kind of details that we do when we make records. That vocal, if it just was a half a dB louder, everything would fall into place. But with movies, I wouldn't know where to start with that kind of thing. And he really took the time to do it just the way he wanted to come across. So yeah, I think it's great. And flattering to have, someone telling that story, of most of my life. I mean, it's like, watching it with you guys in Eagle Rock, watching it there. It's weird sitting next to Dennis while I'm, watching it, that it covers 41 years and I'm 63. So that's most of the time I've been alive is up there on the screen. That's weird.
It's
Yeah.
like a living autobiography that's still being added to. There are still chapters being written. That's one of the things that was really, I think, very, I don't want to say hopeful, because that's not it. It was ended on this real plus note where there's still more story to tell. And I think for the fans, this is a really good film to kind of give us the history, but also leave us wanting way, way more. Sorry, Jeff.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope that's the case. I mean, if I feel like, I mean, it's being, a big music fan, historian, and, the guy who, collects and follows music like we all do. I know that when a band's been around that long or has some kind of touchstone record or song when they started out, you never escape that. That's going to always be there. It's ridiculous to think it won't be. But I do at the same time feel like we've done a pretty good job of putting together a body of work in the last 5 or 6 years that would stand up on its own. And it's nice because when we play shows like the ones you've seen, a lot of bands have been around for a long time. When they, the way to send people to the concession stand is to say, here's a song from our new album. Boom, people are gone. And I feel like people come to our shows, want to hear the new songs, like hearing them. And if we did, when we toured in 2019, actually, for these times, our set was, I think, beginning most nights with 8 or 9 new songs. And then we would play 80 songs at the end. And I never felt like people weren't enjoying it. Because if I felt like people were bumming out, I probably would have changed it. But it was like I could tell people like that, and that feels great.
Yeah, I will just say from my standpoint with what you're saying, Steve, when you reformed the band and brought Jason into the band, and I saw you guys live, I wanted to hear all the old stuff. But now I want to hear all just the new stuff when I see
It's
you guys.
great.
And you guys did a really, really good job on the set lists in the UK. And we've talked to multiple people about those set lists, and there was just a beautiful set list that was stuff from the entire band's catalog, and everything just worked great together. And I'm glad to see that you're doing that. But the new stuff is just as strong, if not stronger, than some of the early stuff, in my opinion. So, but as Soraya mentioned, the band is still writing this history. Thank God.
I think so, and thanks for that. And in fact, the shows. I mean, you've seen us play. Well, you saw us play our last show before the pandemic. That one at the Echo, but the shows in England were probably even a little more nostalgic tinged because Vicky was playing with us, and she is more. Well, she began more familiar with the old stuff, so it was easier to put those in there. But she really enjoyed playing the new stuff, and also the whole concept of that tour being us with Vicky, us with Matt and Steve, and of the box set coming up, all those kinds of things. We did lean a little more towards old stuff, but even then, I felt like, I just want to play more new stuff every night.
Nice.
And I'm excited to see what we do next. I think I like the way the band is right now. I like the things we can do. I think when we broke up in the '80s after 4 albums, kind of like, well, I don't know where we go from here. I'm not sure even where life goes from here. At this point, look, we're older. We've got a longer history. We've had 2 different and connecting histories, and the fact that we can go from here anywhere is really nice. If we would have just made carbon copies of Days of Wine and Roses for the last 5 years, it would be like, well, here's another one. You guys liked it so much. Here's another one. We'll keep hammering them out. I think we could be any kind of band at this point. We could turn around and do a complete thrashy garage record, and that would be the Dream Syndicate. We could do a trippy free jazz kind of record. That'd be the Dream Syndicate. We could make any kind of thing. So that's a lot of freedom that I really appreciate in a band where we all kind of feel the same way and we like playing together still.
Nice. And there's a good chemistry with this band.
There is. Yeah. Musically and we're friends too. That's
right.
we like hanging out together, as you probably saw.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because we learned from the documentary that has not always been the case with the band and different members. So that's just the truth. So I know Soraya's got a flow for where she wants us to go, but one quick question before we get back to Soraya. You mentioned the tour and having Vicky on. How was it having an alternate guitar player with Vicky sitting in just for this tour? How did you like that? I know you guys are old friends. How did you enjoy her sitting in?
Right, I enjoyed it a lot. It was fantastic, and I mean, Vicky's one of my oldest friends at this point. We obviously go back to 82. We've hung out on the scene together. We were roommates for a while and have stayed friends over the years through various connections with Continental Drifters and everything. But we'd never done this kind of a thing together. I think we've, maybe been on the same stage for various reasons at various times, but doing a whole tour together was new. And I think we were both excited about it. And I really tried to imagine ahead of time what that would be like in choosing the songs and thinking about what we're going to do. And you might have noticed we chose a lot of our more harmony-driven songs than we normally would. We played Slide Away and I Have Faith and things like that we hadn't played in a while because, you got a singer like Vicky on stage with you. You got to make use of that. My God. So that was fun. But what I didn't quite see in a way was how often during the tour I felt like it was 1982. Something about, even though we've all, including Vicky, done a lot since then, grown, learned new things, there was something about the way we were playing together on that tour that felt like something that would have been happening at Cathay de Grand in 82. It was a very kind of raw looseness. I don't know, this, it's cool. I don't want to say naive because none of us are, but this kind of, it's brought back to feeling like a new band, like a young band all over again. And that's hard to fabricate, but it just felt that way. Maybe because picking up where we left off back then, I don't know, but we connected in a way, like even when we played John Coltrane Stereo Blues, and I know, Jeff, you and I had a talk after the show, and I can remember this because you said, "Oh, that was great. Are you going to, do that one again?" I went, "No, I think that might be the only time we do it." Because on stage that night, I felt like I don't know where that was going, and I've gotten so used to John Coltrane Stereo Blues being this kind of thing where Jason and I do our telepathy thing, the two of us do, and trade off. And when I played it with Vicky that night, we hadn't done to that point. A lot of the time during the version, I kept thinking, I don't know where this is going. I'm not sure what's going on here. Are we doing anything? And when I heard it back recently since the tour, that version, the Glasgow version, and I loved it. And what I loved about it was it wasn't going anywhere. There was no purpose. There was no structure. And that's where the song began. That's how the song began when we first played it as open hour back in 82. It's just, we're just going to groove and make a bunch of noise until we don't want to do it anymore. And that's how over time it's become this thing where this happens, then that happens, then this event happens, and keep the fireworks coming, folks. There were no fireworks. It just was this amorphous, formless groove, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But being on stage doing that, you can be, it can be nerve-wracking because you think like, oh man, got to entertain the people. What are we doing? And it was a good reminder that sometimes you don't have to entertain the people. Just be yourselves on stage doing your thing.
Yeah, if you're enjoying yourself, certainly we will be too. And thank you for mentioning open hour. I think that's a good transition because I think Soraya wanted to go here.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to add one last thing, just to kind of piggyback on your comment, Steve. So after I think it was Jeff, after the second show in Glasgow, we sat down and we talked and we said, this iteration of the band, Jason wasn't there, but Vicky was, and there was something very electric with not only with John Coltrane Blues, but towards the end of the show, I don't know, you said something to the crowd. You said, one of the things about the Dream Syndicate is we like to jam. And then that, I mean, you just took us on a completely different ride. And then it started getting faster and punkier. And I said, man, Steve Wynn he's gonna thrash this place. And we were just saying, we're ready. Whatever you want to feed us, we are so ready.
It was a pretty punky night that night.
And then, that also kind of harkens back to a lot of the story in the documentary, which is it seemed that you guys were ready to go and drift in directions and explore it. And I think Stephen McCarthy says that too. Well, we just got together and we just started playing. And then it just kind of drifted and it became this thing with natural divisions, and boom, we get another album. So I think for Jeff and I, and definitely a lot of the fans that we were chatting with in Glasgow, is people are just like, what else are they going to do? And I'm here for it. Keep playing. I won't go home. And so I just like that part of currently the band story is not exactly sure there's a map, but we're not going to stop playing until we're ready to stop.
It's best when there's no map. You know, it's funny. I think when we went in to make These Times, for example, we all kind of had the idea of letting it be more loose and unstructured and organic, which is a hard thing to force if it's not there. And I went to that session with kind of more skeletal song ideas. A couple were largely written, a couple were more just a riff, a chord progression, a loose thing, no lyrics. I want to see where things went. And I think that almost put a pressure on the band and me to kind of like, well, look at us now. We're gonna be this cool improvisational band. And it's risky to be that kind of band. It's fun, but it's also risky because when it's not happening, as any fan of a jam band, whether it's Grateful Dead or whatever, will say, you're going to get off nights. You know, you can always master your perfect set with the perfect moments and say, we're going to hit our marks every night. And that's great. That's a great thing to do. And I think over time, in a way, we've become that kind of a band. But I always remember when at least for the Dream Syndicate, when we jam and take a chance like that, 9 times out of 10, more than 9 times out of 10, it ends up being pretty cool, even when nothing happens. Maybe especially when nothing happens, because those are the times where it's very human. You know, it'd be like saying, well, in our conversation today in 1 hour, I'm going to come up with nothing but zinger quotes and just, and not even listen to what you guys have to say, just bang them out. That's not a conversation. That's not human. That's not a connection. And I think that, sometimes on stage, we all want to have zinger quotes when sometimes just going, for a little while is fine.
Nice. I love that.
So let's kind of add to this conversation then. So now what's coming up? I mean, Steve, Jeff and I wonder sometimes, when do you sleep? Because you've been giving us stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Over and over and over. But now we have this new CD box set coming up, and I have to read it because I haven't memorized it. So it's the 40th anniversary edition of the Days of Wine and Roses, but it's the Days of Wine and Roses. History kind of pales when it and you are aligned. And I mean, there is a lot. First of all, we have to also say great thank you to Pat Thomas for his
Big
assistance
time
on this. And the booklet is pretty extensive. And then you've given us more music. I think, and it's 4 discs. So it's a lot of what you know and a whole lot of what you don't. There's live.
That's good.
I mean, there's so much here, and I think anyone would wonder, okay, so 1, where do these recordings live? Where have they lived? To be able to be part of this, and 2, as a fan, do I really need it? I mean, Jeff and I are completists and we say yes, but I think this was such an important album. How was it deciding what needed to be a part of this box set?
Well, I've been a little sheepish when people say, "Oh my God, another reissue of Days of Wine and Roses." I've seen a lot of people say things like, "Well, I bought everyone, I'll buy this one, but you're killing me." And it's like, well, I can sympathize with that as one who's got, too many copies of the same record on my shelf in the other room, certain things. But this is really not a Days of Wine and Roses reissue. It's really more of, that's a small part of the 4 CD story, which, to my way, it was Pat's vision for sure, what he put together. And to my way of thinking, it just is like a time capsule of who we were back then, what the band was all about. And I can hear it going from that, you've got songs from the first rehearsal we did with Dennis at the end of 81, all the way through to a live set at the end of 82. And you can hear the band changing. And those live recordings, to answer your question, most of the recordings back in those days were either done by Dennis or Dennis making sure someone at the show recorded it. He was very big into documenting, more than any of us were. So I can't remember specifically the story of these. I think one's in Reseda, one's in Tucson, one in LA, maybe another one. I'm spacing right now. But generally, Dennis would be the ringleader, making sure things got recorded. I'm glad he did, because it's all cool stuff. the obviously the album's been out before, the rehearsal even has been out before, and some of those KPFK recordings we did right before making the album been out before. But the 2 discs of live stuff that haven't been heard before, unless if you've been passing around cassettes over the years, that's kind of the special thing for me. And that's really I like all 8 records we've made, all to varying degrees, as you hear in the movie when I kind of rag on Out of the Gray a little bit. But I like everything we've done, but I realize at the same time the Dream Syndicate is and has always been a live band. It's always been where we do our thing best of all, even if no flies on our records. But I think we're a live band. We take chances and unfold in different ways every night. And so it's cool to hear the live material on the box set, because that's us. When I hear it, I kind of smile, because yeah, that's who we were back then. And it was exciting.
Yeah. So Steve, a question. So you mentioned cassettes. So those were the source for some of these, at least like for the rehearsals and the live recordings. This sounds really fantastic. I was listening to it through my larger system today, rather than the car or the computer, and it sounds really good. So I know Jim Hill was involved in this project somewhat. How did you make these presumably cassette sources for at least the live and rehearsals sound so great? It really sounds fantastic.
It sounds great. I mean, Jim's great at what he does, and he always has been. He been working with us for a long time, of course, at Rain Parade even more. But I have to say, even though he's not the man with the hands on the board, I have to give Pat a lot of credit, because he just has this. I wasn't there for any of this stuff. In fact, with this box set and with the previous one, the Out of the Gray one, Pat, I think, made a point of having me not be involved.
Oh,
I mean, he did to some extent, and it was a mutual agreement. It's like, he wanted to do it his way, and I have enough faith in Pat to say, yeah, do your thing. I'm going to love it. And in both cases, not only what he chose to put out and the artwork and the liner notes and all that were great, but also it just sounds fantastic, both of them. And he, like, for example, Out of the Gray, the What Can I Say No Regrets box set, I often felt that record was poorly mixed and mastered, and the band, I think the band would agree with me. Somehow he un-80'd it. He managed to, whatever he did in there, he took the 80s off of it and just shined it up. I didn't know there was a filter like that in the studio, but he found it, and it was great. And all of a sudden that record came alive for me. And this record, which I already was happy with, and the live stuff, which hadn't been mastered before, I don't know, it just sounds fantastic. It really sounds very present and live and real, which is great.
Yeah. And some of the tones on it, you mentioned Open Hour, and I love that version that's on here. So the last song on disc 2, and the guitar tones on that song and a lot of these songs they just really pop and they sound fantastic. But Open Hour on here, for me, that's worth the price of this alone. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, but that version that's on here is fantastic.
Yeah, that was the template for. In fact, that's the version I sent to Vicky ahead of the tour, saying, "Well, if we play this song, let's make it like this." She said, "Okay." So that was kind of the idea. Yeah, I mean, the sound, for a band just using whatever gear we had around, we had some good sounds. And I think that the only thing that makes me sad about this box set, and when I hear it, is that I hear the guitar sound I had back then on that record and on those live shows of my, at the time, very cheap, broken little Jazzmaster. My $60 Jazzmaster is probably worth $5,000 now that I don't have anymore. Yeah. And my old twin reverb, which I couldn't get rid of fast enough. And I think, God, I love that sound. And I was just, the second we got signed to A&M, it's like, great, I'm getting myself a real guitar now, and I'm gonna, get a different amp and all this kind of stuff. And there was there's a lot of reasons why things are the way they are and why people play together and why things sound a certain way, but I kind of shouldn't have been in such a hurry to change away from Jazzmasters at the time. But having said that, as you know, or I think but Jazzmasters, as much as they become the hip, trendy guitar, were really tough to maintain. And I spent so much time working on the bridge for that guitar and putting matchsticks underneath the bridge so it wouldn't fall apart and fall out of tune. And, and it was, I just couldn't handle anymore. But I do listen back to think, oh yeah, we had a pretty cool sound. That was including Kendra playing this little 3/4 scale Music Master bass, which, no one else has sounded like that, because it was, again, the limitation of sound, not being generally over time, it's natural, but everybody wants to be better, get a better sound, get a bigger sound, get a more full sound, get them on record and live. And sometimes it just crowds everything up so much that you don't have that innocence anymore. And so when I hear these recordings, that innocence comes back, which is nice.
Nice. Yeah. For those who don't know,
Good lesson.
Yeah. For those who don't know, on the Jazz Master, there's a little floating bridge where normally that's bolted down on guitars. This one just kind of sits on there, and the strings and the pressure of the strings hold it down. So you never know what can happen with those. So,
Thank you for that. I'm glad you read it. And also and there's been since then in the beautiful new world, these new Jazz Master bridges. This is Talking Tech with Steve Wynn, right? But these new Jazz Master bridges are made by a guy in Minneapolis. It's called the Mastery Bridge. So finally, you can have a Jazz Master and stay in tune. So
nice.
Had I had that back then, ooh,
nice. All right. Quick.
Jeff and I got this in Glasgow, but when is the official release date for this from Fire Records?
I know it's next month. I know it's June. I can't remember the exact date, but sometime around mid-June.
Yeah, we're thinking June 23rd is.
Yeah, that was the last date I saw.
Okay.
And then Fire, as you mentioned, also put out the previous box set for Out of the Grave. And these are fantastic presentations, in my opinion. The little booklets with the box sets. Are you happy with how they look as this box set presentation?
Yeah, very happy. I mean, they did a great job. And Fire's been a really good label for us. They do a nice job of archiving the past and supporting the present, so that they've been great. And I hope we do more. I mean, there are 2 other records yet to be excavated, so I hope we can get those out there as well. Medicine Show would be the next one, and Pat and I are already talking about that, and I hope it happens. But it'd be nice to have all 4 albums reissued this way.
That was going to be my follow-up question, so I'm glad that that's at least a possibility.
I hope so. I think we probably talked about before, but Medicine Show's a tough one because the label we were on, A&M, doesn't want to let it go, even though they legally are supposed to. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to, there's a lot going on, and it's not, it's online. There's been a class action lawsuit against the label, and there was a setback in that. And boy, I hate talking about lawsuits and lawyers and stuff like that, but just in short, hopefully we'll find a way to get that record back and to do a similar treatment with that one. We'll see.
I hope so.
So,
right here, Congressman.
Before we move on to other projects that you're working on, Jeff and I want to know, any new music from Dream Syndicate? Can we expect another album anytime soon?
I think expecting another album is sufficient for now. I don't know when that'll be. It's kind of crazy when I think we did 4 albums in 5 years, starting with How Did I Find Myself Here, and toured a lot, and that's including the pandemic, which was like a 18-month shutdown for everyone. So we kind of went at it full force. I think we've all agreed to take a little time off. Everybody has things they're working on. Jason's doing Skull Practitioners and Matrica, and Mark is, I think Continental Drifters are going to be starting to do more shows, I hope. So I think we kind of right now, by no means saying it's over or even we're in hibernation, but I think we decided the rest of this year we're going to kind of just regroup and do our other stuff. And I have, of course, the baseball project ahead too. So it's a good time to put things on hold. Having said that, I'm already excited to what we do next, because I think I already can imagine in my head what that might be. So it won't be too long.
Okay.
Excellent.
So let's talk baseball project. Single was released last week.
Yeah.
Last week is when I saw it.
Last week.
And album upcoming as well?
Yep, June 30th. It's called Grand Salami Time, and it's our long-awaited 4th album. It took a while to get to this one, and produced by Mitch Easter, and we recorded last May, and we all love it. It's really it's a fun record, and the nice thing about the record, this means we'll be touring a lot in August and September, and hopefully beyond.
So 15 new songs.
Yep.
Is that correct?
What's that?
15 new songs.
Oh yeah, 15 new songs. Yeah.
Released by Omnivore. So Yep Rock released the first 3 Baseball Project records, and on this 4th one, you're switching to Omnivore. Can you talk about that switch of labels?
Not much to say. I mean, a lot of years went by since the last record, and I think we just started fresh this time. No knock on Yep Rock. We like them very much, and they're still doing records by Scott's other projects and a lot of my material as well. Just, we kind of went into this record like it was starting over because it had been so long, and Omnivore seemed interested, and we said, okay, that'll do. And of course, Omnivore, they're no strangers to me because I've done several projects, solo things, and the Dream Syndicate reissues with them. So they're friends, they're family, and just seem to make sense.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was wondering about that because we know that Yep Rock is been helping out with some of the Paisley Underground projects. So
Oh yeah.
So I was curious about that. So thank you for that. Being candid.
Yeah, and they did the 3x4 collection, which was wonderful. So yeah, it's funny if it sounds like I'm being diplomatic. I guess I kind of am, but there's not much to say about it. It was just, I don't know. We've decided to look for a new label, and the Omnivore was their enthusiasm won us over. So I think it's that simple. But there's no knock on Yep Rock at all. Really good label, good people.
So what are your
And they still have most of our catalog. So
Yeah. Thoughts about this record versus the other 3?
Yeah, we know on the 3rd album we made put out back in 2014, that was the first album where Mike Mills was playing bass. And Peter Bucket played bass on the first 2 records. And on the 3rd album, Mike, who'd been playing live with us a lot, started playing bass, and Peter switched to guitar, which is, Peter Buck on guitar is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of that record was a very different record. The 3rd one felt more like just a rock band doing the thing in the studio. Not the first 2 records didn't rock by any means, but it felt like, okay, this is just a good, exciting rock band. And I think the new record continues that approach where we just went in, the songs were all about baseball, of course, obviously, but it wasn't. I think at this point we're just a band that that sings cool songs with hooks and harmonies and riffs and different styles and dimensions, that the lyrics happen to be about this one subject. And even then the lyrics, especially this time around on the new record, to my way of thinking, they're not as insider baseball. In fact, a lot of people, like especially our label and some other people working with the label, have said, well, can you let us know which songs are about which teams or players? And I said, well, actually this time around, the song's more about baseball ideas, more abstract. Like the first single, Journeyman, which I wrote with Peter, is barely even mentions baseball. I think there's like slight allusions, but it's really more about somebody who just does something for a very long time and travels from town to town, and every night is doing a job and trying to, to do the job well, and then on to the next one, which is what we all do. It's what musicians do. So it could be as much about all the bands we've been in as it can be about baseball players. And I think that's kind of the way the new album is. Now, some songs are completely baseball geekery in full effect, but there's a lot more going on this time. There's a beautiful song Scott wrote called 64 and 64 about a baseball player named Jim Bouton, who's mostly known for writing the book Ball 4, one of the best sports books ever written. But Scott's writing about his dementia that he had at the end of his life and how it warped his perception of what had happened to him in his career and life beyond. Beautiful song that's just, I get welled up thinking about it. So I think that's kind of the way the record is in a way, just about these life things in general that just happen to be filtered through a baseball angle.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then we know, just to kind of close this part of the circle, we know that Baseball Project is going to be touring August. You're leaving. You're leaving in a couple of days. Just saw the ad for your show in Berlin on May 21st. Yeah. So is it
this
fair
Sunday?
To say, is it fair to say?
Yeah. I got my suit. I got my suitcase over here, so I'm ready to go.
So solo dates for your shows, May, June, July, and then August back in the States.
Yes. Yeah, the tour, I'm not sure when this is airing, but the tour Germany and Belgium is the end of May, early June. And then back home for about 6 weeks, which is I haven't done in a while. That'll be fun. But then starting in August, it's baseball project for a while, probably for the bulk of August and September, which is
Nice.
going to be actually I mean we were all talking about it. It's the longest tour any of us have done.
Wow.
Any of the five of us have done in a long time. That's just really an old school kind of get out there and get in the van, stay in the van. And I think it's kind of amusing to all of us. And I think that we'd be more nervous about it, the fact we aren't all such good friends and we're looking forward just to hang out together and just happening to play shows in the middle of it all. But so it's a way we can hang out because everyone's so busy.
And we haven't seen any LA area dates yet for Baseball Project. Could that
No.
possibly be on the horizon?
Yes, I almost certainly in September. I thought we were going to have them confirmed last week, but I'm hoping this week. But unless I'm mistaken, I think we'll have mid-September a California, actually a West Coast swing.
Nice.
So I've had to bite my tongue when people say, "What about the West Coast?" It's like it's coming. I can guess where it might be. I think I know where it's going to be, but I don't want to say too much.
Okay, no, don't.
Mm.
Once it's pen to paper, then. But
Mm.
we've seen Midwest dates and some others, so we were just curious.
No, it'll probably happen and come out. I realize I think as I said too much. I'm thinking, oh no, I've said too much. But I think my bandmates wrote that lyric.
But I mean, May and June, and then throughout, into September, you've got a lot going on. Documentary coming out. The documentary will be streaming in June. The CD box set comes out June 23rd, plus your own solo dates and Baseball Project album. I mean, okay, I know.
And I'll be touring in October. I'm touring Spain, Scandinavia too. So that's on the tail of that solo tour.
There you go.
I'm doing what I like. It's funny. A lot people say things like, your hardest working man in show business is a joke. And I mean, look, and you just traveled with us. It's not. There are times not easy. Of course, you're getting less sleep than you maybe would get normally. Maybe you're eating on the run, but it's what we love doing. It's getting up there and playing music every night, and every night's a clean slate, and every night you're on stage is a chance to connect with yourself, your bandmates, and the audience in a new way you never did before. It's like even when you're, I always try to remember, even if I'm well into a tour and getting a little fried, thinking, no, this show is like a completely unique show. It's never happened. It's a show that has the potential to have something happen in a way that never has happened before. And that's exciting. There's a reason I think why touring becomes addictive. People say, why does Bob Dylan still do it? He's got all the money in the world. He's 82. Why? And I can't speak for Bob Dylan, who can, but I think that all the people keep going, be it the Stones, be it, just look at any list of Springsteen, whatever. Besides, it's your job. Besides, you're maybe in their cases, you got people on the payroll. Besides all that, I think there's something very addictive about having a fresh purpose every day and fresh, limitless potential to do what you love in a new and exciting way every time you go out there. It's hard not to do it. Having said that, after October, as of now, I'm planning to take a little time off and work on a solo record because I haven't done a solo record in over 10 years. And it's like, oh my God, I'd like to do that next. So that's probably the next thing I'll do.
New solo record. So are the songs already written for this, or you anticipate writing?
I have some things just stockpiled, but I'd rather, I might use a few of those, but I'd rather just start almost like, I've done a few records over the years, like Crossing Dragon Bridge, which one of my last solo records, and Melting in the Dark, the record I did with Cum, where I pretty much went into a project and I wrote for that project. And I'd like to do something like that again. Having said that, I'm not sure what the project is going to be or who I'm going to work with. And I have some different ideas, several things. And the hardest thing is narrowing down one. But I like the idea of choosing who I'm going to work with, where I'm going to do it, and then letting the songs follow. I find these days I write to assignment really well, whether it's the Dream Syndicate, the baseball project is nothing but writing to assignment. And I think the solo record will be the same way.
Nice. So
So
one last question from me, and I don't think you have an answer for this, so I think I'm going to stump you. Any idea
All
how
right.
many songs you've written, Steve?
I don't know the exact number, but I'm kind of aware only because I did that lyric book, and that kind of gave me the chance to go back. I've written and recorded about 400,
Wow.
but I've of course written many more than that. If I had to guess, 1,000, I don't know.
Wow.
You know, it's in that. I think in the documentary, if I'm not mistaken, at one point I talked about Suspects, the band I had with Kendra and Russ and Gavin, and I don't know. I think I wrote for that band 50, 60 songs, and those are just songs I never played again.
Yeah.
So it's that's a whole bunch of songs just written and discarded in the waste bin. There's a lot of things like that when I was younger, and I'd say these days, not 100%, but I generally are, because I'm writing songs for a project. Sure, some things don't make the record, but most things get recorded. I'm not, that was songwriter trade school back then, just learning how to do it. Now it's kind of, but it's funny when the pandemic started, I thought, well, it'd be kind of cool just to, since we're never ever going to go out again, this is the way the world's going to be from now and forever and ever, like we thought for a second. I thought, maybe just try to write and record a song every single day until this ends. Didn't do that, but that would be fun to try sometime. And that's, if I was to take my own advice, I always would tell writers, songwriters especially, just write a lot. If you write 30 songs in a month and 27 are lousy, you wrote 3 great songs. Easy to say. I don't always follow that, but actually be fun going to this new year. I think I'm going to go for quantity and hopefully quality as well.
Nice.
Ooh. So Jeff, I think we've only got one last thing that we need to tell Steve Wynn, and that is Jeff and I are 100% on board with something you said in Glasgow at the very end of the show. You said, take a look. We could call ourselves the Paisley All-Stars. Jeff and I are 100% behind the concept and the execution of that idea. But no, thank you for...
Just I am a lurker. I do catch your shows, and I know you've talked about that idea, and I was happy to hear it had legs beyond that tossed off comment. But I do think it's a good idea. I think it'd be really fun.
Yes, we like it, but we're biased. Yeah. But really,
but I'm dead serious. I think it'd be really great, and I think that's who knows. I don't want to be the one to always carry the mantle, but I think I know a lot of people who would be happy to do it. So let's see. You never know.
You just never know. But we want to thank you.
You guys should pick out the actual tours. It should be your task each time to choose the people on the tour and where it's going to go. That'd be great. Like an official sponsor of the tour.
We'll accept that challenge, Soraya.
Okay.
We don't have a problem. Yeah. And we can even make the set list. We don't care. We're in.
Okay. Sponsored by.
We want to thank you so much for your time, for walking us through not just the documentary, the box set, once again, out June the 23rd. Baseball Project coming soon too, and coming to a town near you, and as well your solo tours. So if you're in Europe, Spain, Scandinavia, Germany, wait, I'm missing
Belgium.
Beautiful Belgium. Love Belgium.
Please go take advantage of these moments. And then, when you have a free moment to yourself, which I don't know when that is, solo album sometime in the future. We're just really grateful for your time and for everything that you offered to us. And as a fan, I'm excited and ready for the next bit. Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been nice seeing you both in all kinds of different places, including here right now. So thanks as always for spreading the gospel of the music we make.
Thank you.
It's appreciated.
It's easy to do because we love it so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
We're also journeymen in a different way.
We all are. At this point, we all are.
I liked how you told that story, because I said, wow, that song applies. I see it differently. I see it differently now.
We're all journeymen. We're just getting to the next day and the next gig and figuring it out as we go along. And what's wrong with that? That's beautiful.
Nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Steve, take care. Thanks again for everything. And have fun.
Thank you both.
We'll see you somewhere.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All
See you,
right.
see you in September.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All
Bye.
right, Steve.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Soraya, how much
Yeah.
do you love Steve Wynn?
We love Steve Wynn.
Yes, we do. Yeah, so big reason why the Paisley Underground is still a vital conversation.
Look, I think, especially now, I've been thinking a lot about this documentary that we saw, this story. This band, as the documentary shows, it's really evolved, changed, and it's gone through it's gone through a lot of changes. And for anyone wondering, yes, we hear from Kendra, not face to face, but via phone call. So her voice is heard in this film. If anyone thinks, oh, we won't hear from Kendra. No, we do. The one voice, and we hear from Paul B. Cutler. The one voice that we don't hear is Carl Prokota. But that being said, as the documentary starts to paint this picture, this band that evolves over time, it's something to really reflect on about how important they are, just the music they put out, one, two, the scene that they're a part of early on. I mean, because let's face it, this is a podcast about the Paisley Underground, and this is one of the seminal bands. But adding on to that, the volume of work and the experiments in musicality and arrangement, and I mean, you name it. It's really been something fun to watch and to continue to watch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's just one of those things where you go, I don't know what else they can do. And then they put out something and you go, well, that shut my mouth.
Yeah.
And so, and you hear and sense this electricity, right? That not only from Steve Wynn, but you hear it from Dennis Stuck. You hear it from Jason Victor, from Mark Walton. I mean, they still have something to say and something to do.
Absolutely.
And, it's just a lot of, this is a fun time to be a fan.
Oh.
And I think you said it, you said something to that effect. It's not just hits, but things that really come at you and you go, I think I want to hear that again. Did I really hear that? And, there are things that just are so different that you can't stop listening to it. So I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot since the documentary, and I'm glad we got a little chance to talk with him about it and about what's coming up, because there's no stopping. I mean, tour, baseball project album, solo album at some point in the future, this CD box set, and documentary. I mean, yeah, there's no stopping.
Yeah. And I don't really want to jump over the discussion about this, but he did mention the possible medicine show release. I love that album, so I would hope I would get the same kind of treatment. Legal issues pending, but that would be great. But for those who have not been able to pick this up yet, you will be able to in June. I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. Sorry, you mentioned that I don't know if yours is going to come with signatures.
I only have 2 signatures. I don't have 3.
Yeah.
Yet.
Well, Mark Walton signed mine, and he had nothing to do with the record or any song on here or this project, but he grabbed it from me and signed it anyways. But beautiful pictures, interviews, stuff about the songs. I mean, it's a great presentation. But I highly recommend it. You mentioned Kendra's phone interview on the documentary. She also did a phone interview, which is written and included. Pat's talked to a lot of people that were involved in the project, and nice little liner notes in here talking about each of the songs that are included on the 2 live sets, and the second disc is fantastic as well. With some of the early stuff and a lot of the rehearsals, I really liked that disc as well.
Yeah.
And of course, the first disc includes Days of Wine and Roses as well as their debut EP. So it's a good set to have, by all means. And I liked how you put Steve on the spot and asked him, why do people need this? That was a great question, because it's an obvious question that fans will ask themselves. So I'm glad that
Well,
you-
I hope it didn't come across as being mean
No.
or disingenuous, but I think when anyone says, "Oh, it's a 40th anniversary album," I have the original. I think it's a fair question, but also
Yeah.
when you look at what's accompanying it,
Yep.
you just go, "Well, hell yeah!"
Yeah.
And then when you hear, "Oh, not only that, but the engineering brought out some of the gem of the sound, especially of these live shows."
Yep.
And I mean, hats off to Dennis Duck, because one of the things in the documentary that comes out, and Steve reiterated it, that he likes to document things. And he documented the first practice that he ever came in.
Yep.
And boom.
Here we go.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think these are things that if you enjoy the band, why not listen to it as gloriously as you can?
Yeah.
And but you know, Steve Wynn is one of you, Jeff. You know, he said, I have multiple pressings of different albums, and I
Yep.
mean, you're a completist, he's a completist. We know so many people who are like that. And it's because every time you come across those, there's something a little different, there's something new, there's something you want. Yeah, you want this.
Yeah.
You want this. I mean, I'm glad that we picked it up. And I'll just add a little anecdote. So when I come back, and I came back, my brother goes, "You didn't pick one up for me?" I just remember going to the merch table and just going, "Gimme, gimme, gimme." And because there were so many people. And so,
Yeah.
needless to say, I'm getting cast on the set, but you know, it was one of those things where I was overwhelmed, and I'm like, this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And then there were tons of people behind me, and we were in this little nook
Yeah.
in Glasgow. I mean, so it was just one of those things where I didn't think about it in the moment until after, and then I said, okay, we're gonna rectify it.
Yeah.
But you know, my brother's one of you as well, Jeff. He's a completist. He's a guy that likes to listen to different pressings and things like that. So I know he's gonna enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some fun kind of behind the scenes banter if you listen to
Oh yeah.
some of the songs. There's the one song where Kendra makes a note where she said, "I don't know what to play on this song, and it doesn't go anywhere," or something along those lines. So it definitely opens up a view into the band that you won't see or hear otherwise. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a fantastic set. And like Steve said, I'm glad he worded it the way that he did and said that it's not necessarily a Days of Wine and Roses reissue. It's a history of the band 82, 83. And I think that is very accurate and well stated, because that's what I get when I read what Pat has included in here, and when I hear these songs, some of the rehearsals, some of the live recordings, it's definitely more of a documentary of that period of the band's history, not just a reissue. So good question, Soraya, and I like Steve's answer on that.
Oh no, it was great.
Yeah.
And then can I just add a completely different total side note for our
Okay.
friends that are in the UK?
Yes.
So
please.
when we went to go see the documentary here in Los Angeles on May the 6th, sitting in front of Jeff was the amazing Barbara Manning, who we've been very thankful to have on the podcast,
A couple times.
talking about 28th Day. And Barbara Manning is going to be doing a couple of shows in the UK this summer.
Yes.
So it has been posted on Facebook. Pat Thomas has shared that as well. But for our friends in the UK, what an opportunity to go see an amazing musician and a really amazing person, Barbara Manning. Please go and see her, because I won't be there, but the rest of you can.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And I
And,
talked to Barbara a little bit that night. It was supposed to be a 28-day tour, but unfortunately that didn't work out. So would be Barbara doing her solo stuff. Fantastic. Yeah, please, we'd love to hear people report out. Are you
oh my
listening
gosh, and we
live?
want to hear
Yes.
about these shows, because
Yes.
she's, I mean, you guys already know she's fantastic and a really great musician, and we love her. We got
Yeah.
nothing but love for Barbara Manning.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and I believe Clive Jones has also shared information about those shows. So
Yes.
if you're looking for it, we'll share the information on our page as well, but go support Barbara Manning. It'll be worth your time.
Agreed.
But yeah, that was the very indirect link.
Yes. Nice. Little Ash.
So,
I love it.
Jeff, every time we talk with Steve Wynn, I get happy to know that more music is on the way.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. And he sounded a little funny about hearing the term the hardest working man from the Paisley Underground and the hardest working artist from it's accurate though. So I mean there's that. But he's doing what he loves to do, and I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. I'm also glad that the band Mark Walton, Dennis Doug, Jason Victor, as well as Steve Wynn, are taking some time to do things, the different things. But I know, those guys, they do their own projects or different things, and then they're ready to come back together and give us something really, really good.
Yeah, and that adds to the freshness, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I said what I said about the end of the movie. The end of the movie is no ending by any means, but really just we're happy to play together, and we still have something we want to share. So we'll just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been funny if they added to be continued at the end, because the story. Agree.
But anyways, Jeff, I hate ending it, but I think we just have to. Mi gente, a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people.
You'd think I'd be good at this by now, and I'm still. There we go. Start my video. There we go. Great. I'll be vain and take the glasses off. Hey.
Perfect.
Hey, our first video chat.
It is our first video chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a wild card here. I said, Vicky, part of the thing about being in the Dream Syndicate, there will be jamming involved.
Oh.
And we're on a band that follows things like time, Is it Friday? I don't know. It's probably like, it's 5 years from now right now. So we're going to stretch this one out a little bit, and see what happens. We're going to jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
the moon goes 10. I might have said something soft, but I don't care what I might have said. You're gonna take it, turn it, set it down. We're gonna send it back to where it came. Gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. Feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it. I say, yeah, gonna be alright. To be alright. It's gonna be alright.